We are recorded. There we go.
Okay, I am going to call us to order at 6:03. And first up is changes to the agenda.
I would like to that we make a few changes to our agenda this evening. I'd like to limit our action items to only the things that are necessary. My understanding is approving our can. Is there anything else that needs to happen tonight? Or David?
Yeah, actually, when I talked with Brittany, she was just a little nervous, like if we couldn't get a quorum next week. The TAN's important, but she thinks we can do that LED stuff, the rest of the stuff in probably 10 minutes. So I think we could just move it all up if there's no objection to the board, and then we can get those action items taken care of, and then move on to the discussion item. Yeah.
Okay.
And we have Joe Houston here too from facilities.
Okay.
So is that what you're recommending, that we move it up?
Yeah, I would recommend moving up 2 through 5. The new hires, I think, if they
No, new hires, we don't need to do that tonight.
Okay, so I would like to move that we move action items number 2 through 5 up before public comment. And I would like to also suggest that we add an action item to schedule a special meeting for next week to continue this discussion and also complete any action items that need to happen. So.
Okay. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor of moving our action items 2, 3, 4, and 5, and also adding scheduling a second June meeting, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Just people coming in.
I don't think we have any board members.
I think we have Mandy.
Mandy's, okay, yeah, that was.
Okay. All right, the motion passes. So we're going to conduct some very quick board business, and then we will open up public comment. So first, we do need to approve the minutes of May 9th, May 17th, and May 31st. Has everybody had a chance to look at those? Any changes or no? I'm looking mostly at Terry because she usually catches us. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I would remove my name from May 9th. I wasn't present.
Okay.
As board members present.
Okay.
And Lisa's here, she'll make note of these corrections. That's just one.
Okay. All right, all those in favor of approving the minutes of May 9th, May 17th, and May 31st, while also removing Kevin from May 9th, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, the motion carries. So now we are going to jump down to our action items. We are going to wait on approving new hires. So Brittany, I'm going to look at you for opening and approval of pellet boiler installation.
She's gonna turn it over to Joe.
And then I'll look at Joe.
Okay, so we wrote Annie and I worked on writing some grants to get a wood pellet boiler conversion project underway at Harvard Elementary School. So in your board folder, I dropped in this morning, so some of you probably have not had a chance to see it. There is a Harvard Elementary School boiler grant funds rundown. Department of Public Service share grant, we have $250,000. From the Department of Forest and Parks, $5,000. Both of those require a $25,000 match. Efficiency Vermont has committed $55,000 to the project, which can be used as the matching funds for the other two grants. So we have a total available from grant funds of $330,000 before we look at having to expend any capital funds for the project. Once we had that funding lined up, we put out RFP. We received 3 bids. Because these are federally funded projects and our understanding of federal fund requirements, the bids are supposed to be opened at the public meeting. So at 6 o'clock, I dropped the 3 bid proposals that we received into the board folder. The 3 proposals we have are all they're from Rolling Energy, which is out of Keene, New Hampshire, Lime Green Heat, which is from Lyme, New Hampshire, and Sunwood Biomass from Waitsfield. All 3 of these firms are well regarded by Efficiency Vermont's engineers that I've been speaking to as we develop the scope of work for this project. And we do have Bill Harris from Efficiency Vermont online remotely if there are any questions that we have for them as we look through. So I'm just going to pull up Rolling Energy. The initial scope of work would be to remove one of the 2 oil boilers from the school and put in a set of wood pellet boilers and all the necessary plumbing and a pellet bin. Rolling Energy's bid is $338,000. I had them do 2 add alternates. One is to put in a hybrid water heater for making hot water during the summer so that we don't have to run our pellet boilers just to make hot water or run our oil heater for just hot water. And the other one was to convert our distribution pumps from the current pumps to a variable speed pumps, which will save us a fair amount of electrical energy. And the pumps we have are midway through their lifespan, and we're tearing apart the boiler room and rebuilding everything. This would be a convenient time to upgrade those pumps as well. The hybrid water heater is $5,000, and the variable speed pump is $22,000, for a total of $365,000. They did put one caveat in their bid. They're not able to do this project this year because of their current schedule. Our grants are allowed through the end of August or September 2024, and they felt they could complete it in that time frame. But I encourage them to submit a bid so that we would have the comparables. Lime Green Heat, their initial scope of work is $379,000. And for they do not recommend the use of a hybrid water heater in this situation, so they did not choose to bid for that alternate. And the variable speed pumps, they have in at $31,000 for a total of $410,000. The last one, Sunwood Biomass, theirs for the primary scope of work is $297,400. The hybrid water heater, $5,720, and the variable speed pump, $23,420. That includes an assumed rebate from Efficiency Vermont for that. If that was to come through, I would assume it would be in that $30,000 range. So the total for Sunwood as bid would be $326,540, which would mean we could complete the project completely with grant funds with no local dollars having to be expended. The way the system would work, all of these vendors came and did a walkthrough in the discussion. They're all talking about using the same main energy systems boilers, which are built by Hokofen in Europe and then assembled in Maine. It's a pretty long track record. They put 4 boilers in. They'll cover 75% of our heat demand, which will offset about 90% of our overall oil consumption every year. And because it's 4 boilers, they can tune them and turn them down and alternate their operation and turn them down to about 30% output on a single boiler. So in the shoulder season, you get a small amount of heat. We're not overproducing. They're highly efficient. These are the boilers that are in Craftsbury Academy that were just installed last fall that worked this winter with great success and no issues up there. Sunwood was the contractor that did that work, and they did a good job and got it on time. Lime Green Heat and Sunwood have both advised me that they have the time to do the project this summer. So my recommendation would be, based on these bids, that we award the contract for the project to Sunwood Systems and move forward with it, grant funds. And unless there's some unforeseen need to repair an item in the boiler room that wasn't readily noticeable during our walkthroughs, we shouldn't have to spend any local dollars on the project.
Okay, anybody have any questions? Will you just let me know if someone, okay, any questions? Okay.
I guess my only question would be, do we need to make a decision on this evening? I mean, it just,
If we want to do this project this summer, we need to commit to this tonight so that we can move forward with getting equipment ordered and getting stuff done. Because by the time we have, everything on site, it's going to be tight to get back up and running before heating season. Worst case scenario, we will have one oil boiler still in place, and so they would get the piping done so that we can run off of that until everything is set up. But if we delay, we're going to be kind of really up against whether or not it's feasible to do it this year, and the pricing isn't likely to hold for that period of time. I do already have the building permit from the town of Hardwick for the installation of the pellet silo outside the school, worked through that with zoning administrator and the electric department. So we're good to go on that.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, would anyone like to make a motion then? Go for
I
it.
make a motion that we approve the Sunwood boiler bid for Hardwick Elementary School in the amount of $326,540.
Okay, any discussion? All right, all those in favor of approving the bid to Sunwood Systems for the boiler at Hardwick Elementary, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Andy said aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Abstentions? All right, the motion passes. Just a second to get back.
Thank you for your work on that, Joe.
Yeah, Joe,
Yeah.
thanks. Good work.
It's exciting.
That's not.
All right, next we have approved the LED lighting lease.
Is this Joe again? No. Okay.
So you have an outline of all the lease bids that I received in your board folder. We received 3 companies, US Bank, MLC, and First Government Lease. I did the RFP in 2 different options for every board. So if you financed 100% of the project you've already approved, which is it's already underway, you need to have a final decision on how to fund it, or 50%. Or in this board's case, you are the only board that I've been recommending to not use capital funds because we were planning on using the capital funds towards that boiler project that we've now fully grant funded. LED lights are not something that we'll find grants for. And future projects, Joe and I are very confident we'll continue to find grants. So my recommendation tonight to your board, cut it really quick. MLC is your lowest option on both A and B, but I'm still recommending the same recommendation that I have had to use your capital funds. And at the bottom, you can see your capital balance right now is $622,000. If you paid for your lighting in full, that would leave you with a balance of $215,000. We've been carrying these balances, and the state has a statute you're supposed to be using it within 5 years. So I really want to start using these funds. I think that's still a very healthy balance, knowing that our other project is already going to be funded. So my recommendation is to not accept any bid lease. And then the next action item would be my recommendation to use capital funds. But if you guys have any questions about.
Can I ask a question, seeing as how you've changed? I had a question that I was going to ask about this, change community questions.
We did.
Just understanding.
I'm gonna look to you, David.
I would say if the board has no further questions, then we can certainly, I think, answer 1 or 2.
Anybody on the board have any questions? No?
Not current.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear. Is the question from the community about,
The LED lighting, yes.
I guess we're making a decision on this tonight.
So the project's already approved.
Hey, you approve the project, the project's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
It's really a question of how you're gonna fund the project. That's the issue.
Like,
Was it about the funding or was it about the project?
It was about whether this building is going to receive anything before you make a final decision on what's happening.
Projects are already in pipeline.
Yeah,
So what we're talking about tonight is only the financing.
Okay,
yeah. And plus, no matter what we did, you know, in terms of the options we're discussing tonight, we're gonna want to fully maintain this building and at least have it you know, operable for sure. So, yeah, but that's a good question. I appreciate that. Yeah. So that part was already approved. Now it's just the funding.
The finance, okay.
So I think the first motion would be to reject all bids.
If that's what the board.
If that you want to do, the second motion would be to approve the use of capital funds to pay for the LED project.
Well, I'll make a motion to reject all the bids.
Okay, any discussion? All right, all those in favor of rejecting all the bids for the LED lighting lease, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay, the motion passes, and then I'm open for another one.
I'll just roll right into the next one and make the motion to use capital funds to pay for the LED lighting.
So I think she'll need the amount for the.
In the amount, do you want to say the amount again?
Not to exceed.
$622,000.
Oh,
No, that's the balance.
That's about, oh, it's big.
400,000. It's 407,232.
Not to exceed.
Yep. So I'll make a motion to use capital funds not to exceed $407,232 to pay for the LED lighting system.
All right, any discussion? All right, all those in favor of using our capital funds to fund this lighting project, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? That motion passes as well. Okay, and so that was 3 and 4. So now we're on 5, which is approve the TAN, which is in our board folder.
And TAN for the viewing public is the tax anticipation note, right? We borrow in anticipation of collecting property tax.
So Brittany, you have a recommendation there?
Yep, so again, I had 3 bids, one from Union Bank, one from Community Bank, and one from Community National Bank. Each bank gave 2 options. One is a line of credit and one is an ICS option. We've been going with the ICS option the last couple of years. I don't know.
ICS stands
Yeah,
for.
it's an account that they put all of your funds into and that earns interest instead of different from a line of credit. It's all there. But the great thing about Union Bank, since we bank there, they give us the interest, the higher interest on all of the funds, not just the loan. Or the other banks were only going to give you the interest on the loan. So my recommendation is to approve the Union Bank ICS. The amount that you're paying in interest is 3.8. And the amount that you gain it back is 4.25. So
SES stands for Insured Cash Sweep.
there you go.
It's a sweep account. Thank you.
Gotta use Google River.
All right, any questions about the TAN? All right, I am open for a motion then.
I move that we accept the bid from Union Bank, the ICS option for the following fiscal year. Current fiscal year. Next following fiscal year.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor of approving the Union Bank ICS proposal, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay, that motion passes as well. So now we are going to open it up for public comment. Did you want to do your?
Yeah, well, first of all, there's a general,
The agenda has a general public comment, which would be for comments that aren't related to the issue that we're going to be discussing
tonight, so that would be the public participation piece.
So I didn't know if anybody had any other comments other than what we're going to discuss tonight.
We're gonna do a quick little PowerPoint, and you'll have plenty of time to comment on that when we get to it.
But are there any other comments about anything else? I do want to make
A quick comment that it looked like we went through those business items and just dispersed a lot of money very quickly, but this board's been talking about these items for
a long time, including the LED project. They've always had to borrow a tax anticipation note. We've been talking about the pellet boiler for quite some time. So I know it looked like that went fast, but there's been a lot of discussion. So is there any other public participation before we get into the heart of the matter tonight? Okay.
And before you start, just a quick reminder that if you would like to speak, just to help keep things flowing and organized, there is a sign up over there, just if you want to say something.
I think
Ann
had a question.
No, that's okay. That I wanted to mention the same thing that Sam just mentioned. And I just wanted to make a quick acknowledgement that we're all here because we care a lot about our schools and our children. And, you know, speaking for Sam and I as leadership on the board, just want to acknowledge that these are hard conversations with no easy answers. And so we're inviting listening tonight. The board is really here to listen. We will not be making any decisions on this issue this evening. We also didn't schedule our next meeting, in which we do anticipate, you know, this is the first of many conversations we'll be having together. So we're planning to schedule a special meeting, hopefully next week. Everyone will be warned of that. The public is always encouraged and invited to participate, as Terry has mentioned to me, in the spirit of assuming goodwill, for, you know, among everyone, right? So we're all here with respect and deep listening and empathy. So thank you all for making the time to join us tonight.
Bring that PowerPoint up. Okay, we good? All right. So I'm going to use my husky baritone. I know that I may not even need that microphone. Probably the people who are online can hear me in their homes, so we're not going to worry about that. But I'm going to go as quickly as I can through this, because this is information that has already been shared with the community, either through social media or the letters that we sent out earlier. And it's really just kind of running through the options. So if you want to go to the slideshow, and we are getting there now. I think you can just hit slideshow up in this corner, Dave. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, you got it. There we go. Look at that. And then enter will just get us through the slides, right?
Yep.
All right. So we can hit the enter button and go to the next slide. We all know where we are with Lakeview Elementary School. And by the way, the board, even though, you know, this is not maybe the best presentation space, the meeting was scheduled for Lakeview, and we wanted to keep it at Lakeview because this issue is very important to Lakeview, right? So that's why we're here tonight. There has been a lot of discussion about why now and why not during budget season or why not back in January. But the bottom line is we were planning to just move forward with a plan that that Principal McCarthy had come up with, which was a good plan. It assumed about 38 kids would be here. It assumed a certain number of staff members. We can operate certainly with the plan that Mr. McCarthy had in place with about 38 to 40 kids and operate quite well. But we slowly, over the last couple of months, have had requests for interdistant choice. We've had some families move. So consequently, these are the numbers we're looking at now, which is about 27 students. So you can see why not just the staffing shortage, because we are hiring too, and we'll continue to hire. That's less of an issue than how we organize around these 27 kids. Because what we want to make sure of is that if we are going to provide education in this building for 27 kids, that we do it with the best, with fidelity and with the best possible grade configurations and teaching strategies that we can muster. So this is what we knew we were dealing with. Next slide. And we can again have comments at the end. I'm going to go through these quickly. This was the original budgeted plan. This was the plan to have the 4 teachers. We had already confirmed 2 of the hires. We were still looking, and we're looking in other buildings as well. We're doing better than we did last year, but this was going to be the way we operated had we had all the students. And again, operation costs for this building, including staff, support staff, operational staff, utilities, maintenance, you can see the cost there is a little $938,000. Right?
Can't read it.
Can't read that?
Closer or made it bigger.
We won't be able to make it bigger, but it's $938,000. I mean, there's change in there too, but it's $938,922.08 because my finance director loved that. That's what it costs to operate this building for staffing and operational purposes. And that's what we were planning to spend certainly next year. Next slide. Next slide was option 1, right? And this would have required 2.5 FTE means full-time equivalents, right? Teachers, we again had the confirmed hire of 1, our 1 remaining staff member, but we also have 1 who is in the application process and ready to come aboard. This, if we ran like this with a K2 combination and a 3-6 combination, 12 students, 15 students, and an operational and personnel cost of $823,036, right? Next slide, and we can clarify these as we go along. Next slide. We have combination classes again, K1, 2 through 4, and 5 through 6. Again, we have that 1 confirmed hire. We need 3.5 to make this operate. One of the things that you'll see down here, you might not be able to read it, but it says a halftime academic interventionist, and you'll see this on a couple of the options, because what we would do with that academic interventionist would be to share halftime teaching in the morning, so that when we're teaching, and certainly Lisa could speak more clearly about this, so that when we're teaching literacy and math, we'd actually have for these wider multi-age options, we'd have another teacher in there for the literacy and math. And then that person would go to intervention in the afternoon, and then we would just have 1 teacher working with this number of students, 8, 9, and 10. Next slide. Again, I'm just doing this so we have time for comments. I don't want to belabor the options. Option 3, it's almost essentially the same option. Or is it the same option? Did we actually go? Did you hit it?
No.
Yeah, there we go. Option 4, I knew that looked very.
It's 3.
What's that? We're on 3?
2, you should be on 3.
Okay, backspace then. 3 looks a lot like 2. Sorry about that. K1, 2, 3, 4, 6. Right?
That's just different combinations of.
Just different combinations of kids, right? Just different combinations of kids, right? Again, trying to decide how we would disperse those 27 students. Again, you see there, 3.5 required, not much of a cost differential. Option 3, $896,595 for personnel and operational costs. Now we can go on to option 4. Option 4 is a little bit more complicated, but it's essentially a K1 combined class, a grade 2 class, but this grade 2 teacher would then share that intervention position I was talking about, or there would be another interventionist in the morning to help. No, I'm sorry, I got the wrong option here. Sorry. Intervention is right. Interventionist in the PM halftime to be decided, not this teacher. This teacher stays with grade 2. This teacher stays with K1, this teacher stays with 3-4, and this teacher stays with 5-6. That's 3.0 with combined hires. This option basically is a 2-class multi-age option. And you figure in that option, you can have 1 teacher working with 2 grades. Once you start stretching it to 3 grades, it gets a little bit more complicated, especially in literacy and math.
That,
Go ahead.
what you have on option 4 right now is listing grades 5 and 6 potentially attending Hardwick or Woodbury as well.
Right, right. And that had the asterisk there that said essentially, it doesn't have to be 5, 6, it could be any 2 grades, to be honest with you. And then last but not least, go right to the next slide. The board wanted, just for transparency purposes, to put the option 5, which is to completely close the school and move the kids either to Hardwick or to the Hardwick Elementary or Woodbury. The articles of agreement, you can see them right there. In the academic year 2021 and 22, it could not have happened in 1920 or 2021. But after those first 2 years, starting in 21, 22, which would have been last year, and after that, anytime forward, the new Union District Board, which is this board you're looking at right now, shall not close any school building or cease using the building to provide direct instruction in at least one grade, pre-kindergarten through grade 6, unless first approved by the electorate of the new Union District. So this board would have to vote to no longer provide instruction in this building, but then that would have to be warned as a public article that would go between all 4 towns, and the towns would have to essentially ratify that decision that this board makes, right? And then those ballots would be commingled, just like our budget is commingled. They would be counted, and it would be a simple majority that would either ratify the board's decision to no longer offer instruction or to refute that there would no longer be instruction here. So that is how your article reads.
One correction,
Go ahead.
you also have to do that if you stop providing for at least one grade. So if you're planning on moving anybody from this school and not teach, in your example, grade 5 and 6, then you need to do that same vote. I have the articles here.
Okay.
Can we, yeah, the article reads that we need to provide direct instruction in at least one grade. That's what it's saying. It's not saying that if we cease providing instruction in one grade.
Yeah, I do not.
If you cease to use the building to provide direct education in at least one grade, it doesn't say to add one grade. It says if you cease one grade, between pre-kindergarten and grade 6.
Can you clarify where in the,
It's in Article 4, the next sentence after the end of this.
It's currently up on the screen.
No, this whole thing's not up there.
No, it's in Article 4A.
That's 4B.
You're in 4B. This is in 4A.
4A. I don't have.
4A only
That's the
applies,
Same thing in B, that if you cease using the building to provide at least
2 years,
one
right?
grade, pre-K through 6, unless the first approved by the electorate voters.
So you're looking at 4A, right?
It's in both of them.
So 4B reads, in academic year 2021 through 2022 and after, the new Union District Board shall not close any school building or cease using the building to provide direct instruction in at least one grade, pre-kindergarten through grade 6, unless first approved by the electorate of the new Union District.
You've got that up there.
But
I'm
four
gonna-
A is for previous
But
years.
Vince-
4A is,
4A was for the first 2 years. That one no longer applies.
Okay, so this is 4B.
Terry, David, or I'm gonna stop us because it's not public comment yet. And we can have this looked at by the legal team for the district.
We've already got these articles.
I don't
in front
want
of
to
the
take
attorney.
up public comment time right now.
No, we don't
arguing
wanna
this,
take up public
Okay,
comment.
thank you. Go ahead, David.
Yeah. So, just to be clear, 4B picked up in the 2021, 2022 school year and moved us forward, right? And this is what I thought was the complete language for 4B, correct? So, all right. So next slide, I think might be it. We might be at the end. Nope. All right. So then option 5, based on that, is that the board could, by a vote of this new union board, could vote, right, to warn an article to propose a vote of the electorate to close Lakeview School as required by the Unified Articles of Agreement that we just looked at, right? And then I would be very careful about this number. We ran some really quick totals around what that savings could be, but remember, if in fact we were to reduce, because this is taking into account that we would reduce support staff, because support staff in their master agreement and in their contract, there's a 30-day notice clause in there. So the support staff, and I'm not suggesting that this would be a very healthy thing to do, to support staff in June, July, or August. But you could technically give them their 30-day notice, but you would have to go to a seniority list, and it would be the least senior support staff member in If it's a special ed, it would be in the supervisory union. If it was in OSUD, it would be the least senior staff member in OSUD. So this is not a direct number that relates to, we just pull this because it's the people who are working here now. But we are guessing that because we have a couple of openings for support staff at Hardwick, we have a couple of openings for support staff in Woodbury, that these people would not be reduced in force, but instead they would probably be moved to the other buildings. So this is a very high estimate in terms of savings. So I would not, as we say in the business, take that to the bank, right? That it would probably be, substantially less than that, because we would keep people hired that are already hired. Teachers, once they're off the contract, they can't be reduced in force until the following year. Not that we have a lot of teachers here at Lakeview that we would have to, worry about reducing in force, because right now we only have one fully signed on by contract. And again, not recommending this, but that person, could be displaced to another building if we decided to do that. The only other thing I'll say about closing the building is, aside from the articles, we did have, we did look at the deed to the property, and it's really important to know that the building does, we thought at one point that maybe it reverts back to the town of Greensboro. It doesn't, it stays with the school district. But what you have to understand is that once you close a building down, I mean, really close it down, you don't heat it, you don't put any electricity in, then the building really does start deteriorating. And I'm here for the superintendent, I don't pay taxes here. What I'm saying is, no matter what we do with those 27 kids, I see some incredible uses in the next couple of years for educational purposes in this district for the use of this building. I would never, as a superintendent, the board may have a very different thought, but I'm late in my career, so I can say whatever I want. The bottom line is, I would not recommend that this building does not get used for educational purposes. It's too much future on the horizon. If you notice the legislature, we have one of our legislators here now. There's a lot of talk about serving all 4-year-olds in our supervisory union. There's some talk about ways to continue grades. We're always struggling to find ways to serve kids that are really struggling. I guess my point is that once the building is closed and not heated, you don't have the use of that building in the future. So what I'm hoping is, through the comments we get tonight, we can come up with some creative solutions. That's not an exhaustive list of options. We want to hear from the community. The board does. The board wants to discuss a little bit. And then my understanding is we will not be making a decision tonight, and it wouldn't be right to make a decision tonight. Need some more reflection, a little more thinking time, and then hopefully we don't want to wait until August either to let folks know what's really happening. I think one of the things too that is happening with some of our current families, and I don't blame them, to be honest with you, is they're sort of looking at the situation. And that's why we just, in the last couple of weeks, had a couple more families say, I think we're ready to, use any district choice to move our kids to Hardwick Elementary or to move our kids to Woodbury. That's just a natural occurrence. And that's why we have to make a decision so we can get out there, both the short range plan, which in my view is that plan for next year, and the more long range plan for the use of this building within this district as we move forward. I don't think we're going to decide the long range plan in one night, 1 week, or 1 month. I think that's going to take more time. But I do think we can come up with a robust short range plan based on the comments you give us tonight. Okay? Thanks.
Okay, so I'm gonna open it up to public comment. Can everybody hear me? I have a fairly loud voice, but, Pam Friend, I'm Chair, I'm a Greensboro resident. Just to kind of try to keep things respectful and orderly, if you wanted to say something, hopefully you put your list on here, your name on here, and also, folks online can raise their hand. Dave is gonna follow the list there. So that we're not all here all night. I'm gonna ask you to limit it to 2 minutes, which Ann is gonna help keep track of. And again, assume best intentions, please. We're all volunteers. I don't know if you guys know that, but none of us are paid to do this. So we're here because we care about these students in all the towns. Just tell us your name, where you're from. And again, we can't make a decision tonight. It's not warned as an action item on our agenda. So we will continue these discussions if you have questions, because public comment is simply, we listen. This is not a dialogue between us and the public. If you have questions, you are more than welcome to email any member of the board, the superintendent, if you have questions that you would like answered. So I am going to start at the top of the list, which is,
Sorry, can I just make a
Yep.
quick? As you keep track of your questions and would like to email them to us, there is an alias that goes to all members of the board, and that's OSUESD board@ossu.org. So if you use that address, it will automatically come to all of us.
And we have received emails, and we are saving them all in a folder. The board will be reviewing those emails. So a lot of people in the last couple of weeks have sent us their comments by writing. Sometimes it's better to do it by writing because then it's kind of immortalized in stone. So thank you for those who have already given us comments.
And can I just make one more note about the email?
You actually get the wrong.
For expectations purposes, board members are not allowed to get into just email. So again, that's simply a listening, receptive channel.
OSUESD board.
Provide information or commentary back to you because that violates open meeting.
That's big.
So just to set that expectation, we're happy to receive as many comments. We can't necessarily reply as we can tonight in person.
now that's the correct email address.
Dave can put it in the chat if you haven't already. Did you put it in the chat? Thank you. Well done.
All right, Della, you're first.
Great.
I do just want to say really quick that the folks that are remote are having a hard time hearing. So if we can keep the noise down to here, it'll help them.
Yeah.
Microphones here, I don't think we can
If you
place
want
it
to
closer.
come more center, that's closer to the mic, but just speak up and go at it.
I'll do my best. I just wanted to say that my children have gone to school here. I have a granddaughter who's going to school here. She will be a sixth grader next year. And she really wants to graduate from Lincoln. It's very important to her. So sending 5, 6 to Harvard, I don't agree with. The budget's already passed. I think we need to go on with what we were originally planning and try to figure out a better way to maybe get more kids here. Maybe we need a bus for kids like Hardwick Elementary. There's maybe some Hardwick kids that want to come here. And maybe we need a bus to get them here. It's very important. I would love this school, and I don't think this community would be lost without us. We do a lot with the nursing home. We do a lot of things with the town library. I just really want to see the school stay open, and I think we need to work, have school here, work next year, and try to figure a better way to get kids here. And our numbers have always been low. And a lot of people move around summertime. We could get more kids, that's what we're expecting.
Thank you. Jen, did you make up your mind?
I just had 2 questions.
Just remember, we can't, okay.
But hopefully you'll answer them at the next meeting. If we could get a breakdown cost per student instead of a total cost, how many kids have in the last week and a half since you put this information out, decided either to go to one of our other schools or to even go outsource to private schooling? And have you thought of option 6, which Stowe just did? They divorced their district and they're going self-centered. So I think that could be something that Greensboro and Standard could look at also if they really want to keep the building open, would be to divorce the district.
Thank you. Next is Orice.
Yeah, I have a few. You did answer some of them. The first one is, and I know you can't answer these, when will the decision be made? Are you having another meeting where you will be making a decision? And I would suggest strongly that you hold off on installing or doing any major maintenance in this building, because it also states in the articles that if the building is not used for pre-K to 6, that it needs to be sold if it is closed. So that's an option. And how is having 6 to 8 students in a classroom fair? And I'm using the words you used a year ago at your sports meeting, that you wanted to do a major change in the sports to make it fair to the Lakeview students for what Hardwick had, when you're talking 6 to 8 students in a classroom here, and our teachers at Hardwick Elementary for the same pay are dealing with upwards of 20 to 28 kids in a classroom, not in the whole school. How is that fair to their education when they're dealing with that many students? And here you want to have a teacher deal with no more than 10 at the very most. Those were the days of the one-room schoolhouse. You have to look at the taxpayers in the whole district, and asking them to support a school with 3 to 4 kids in a classroom, to me, is not fair and not equitable to taxpayers. And you really need to consider, and I'm not being mean or facetious, it's a fact in numbers and dollars, that this school needs to be closed. And issues, the buses are already going from Greensboro Standard to Hardwick because they bring Hazen kids back and forth every day. It's only a mile down the road to the elementary school. And then they would be there for after-school programs, and you would have that equity solved a little better. And I realize we're talking.
That's your time, Horace.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you. We are going to go back, like, if you want a second turn to talk, we'll try to make that happen. Next is Erica.
I have lots of questions, but I should like to hear from the people that had probably put them further on the list, because I want to hear about from parents and learn more before I
Okay.
waste my,
You want to yield your time.
Yeah. Okay. So, next I have Emily McClure.
I am a mother of a 4.5-year-old and a 1.5-year-old, all of whom will be coming up the road up to Lakeview. And I think I'm really just here to listen. I don't know how all the answers in terms of what the best option for all the kids are. I think you over there, I'm kind of on the Stratford side, so it feels hard to think of traveling all the way down to, I mean, even Hardwick for me, or Woodbury. So I would love to know if that's an option down the road, I guess. But I'm excited to send my child to a few kids here, and if not, I just tell them. All right. Thanks.
Thank you. Next, Rose.
Hi, I'm Rose Moldry, and I'm a parent in Greensboro, a former member of this board. I think I'm so appreciative to see this outpouring in the community and about 35, 40 people online. Just really appreciative. I support this school. Our son goes to this school. And what are my two main points I want to make are the point that Adela made about the population going up and down at this school. When I joined this board, we had just been talking about putting a bond out to the town to build a bigger school. That was just a few years ago. So I think it's really important to remember that population ebbs and flows, and that it would be really short-sighted to make this decision based on this year, right after the pandemic, and looking at the numbers right now without looking a little bit historically at what has been in the school, ebbs and flows. A few years ago, we were talking about closing Woodbury School because the numbers were really low just a few years ago. So a little perspective, I think, is really important. Secondly, really fast, I just want to say, as we focus on social emotional well-being and trauma-informed teaching, which I know we've been talking about and emphasizing, this move to close the school would really be hypocritical and would not follow social emotional well-being or trauma-informed teaching for our students. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Jay Moldry.
Pass it now.
Okay, you want to go back? You want to go back on the list?
I'm on the list, keep me on the list.
Yeah, you're next though, so I'm going in
I'll
order
pass for now.
for now. Okay. Victoria,
Hi, I'm Victoria Von Hessert. I served on the Lakeview board before it became the OSUESD board and helped to negotiate the RSS agreement that we're discussing part of this evening. And I just wanted to, part of the reason that the board at the time agreed to continue with merger talks wasn't just Act 46, but it's because we felt it was a lifeline for the school. And we thought that during the ensuing years, the community would figure out ways to draw more families, find more housing, and better opportunities for Greensboro kids. And that has not materialized. And I don't support option 2 or option 1. I think that having a teacher teach grade 3 through 6 is not a good thing for the kids in that classroom. I don't think teachers can adequately differentiate anymore at the way classrooms are now. There are too many things going on and too many things to manage for teachers as it is. I don't think that would be a very supportive model for other teachers for the students. I think that I'm probably not going to be very popular for saying this, but I think that the time is coming to think about what's the right thing for Lakeview students in the long run. And being in a tiny school where their needs may not be adequately met because the demands on teachers are too high, that's my concern. That really, I love the idea of keeping our community school going, but I'm also deeply concerned that the needs of kids won't necessarily be met, especially kids that, in our experience with our kids, we felt like they weren't being challenged enough because there were so many other things going on in the classroom that the awesome teachers in this building just could not keep everything going for our kids as well. Anyway, I know this is a difficult job, and I thank you for inviting us all to participate.
that's your time. Thank you. Thank you. Judy Carpenter.
Yeah, I was a parent, my kids went to school here, I taught in the different years. My husband was on the school board and was principal at a couple of other different schools in Vermont that had similar issues. So he couldn't be here and asked me to speak to his comments. One of his suggestions was to open up the school for homeschooling parents and children, let them use the facility, join classes for different lessons that parents might not have the skills for. He did it with the principal at Chelsea, and it was very successful. It did help to increase enrollments, it built trust with parents, and was a win-win for the whole community. So that was one suggestion. Another thing was that he's seen a lot of schools close or reduce in size to save money and just decrease taxes. And while that often happens in the short run, all the data he's looked at said that in the long run, it doesn't. So saving money is maybe not the primary driver here, or shouldn't be. He also was on several committees and boards and commissions for Lakeview and OSSU, looking at different consolidation and all kinds of different options. And he said, you guys don't need to reinvent the wheel. Somewhere in the office on the shelves, there are extensively researched options and decisions and thoughts, so that he encouraged you to also look at the past or some of the people that were. And I also would say, as a member of the housing committee for the town, is that yes, there are some options being seriously explored, and Kent would speak to that maybe in 2 years we are going to have more housing, and if there's no school in town, that's going to really impact who moves into those housing options. So the future is in flux.
Thank you. Sophia.
Hello, Sophie Barkswell. I'm a Greensboro resident. I have 2 kids that go to Lakeview. Thank you for hosting this meeting here. Thank you everyone for showing up, and thank you to the virtual. We see you. So I got to go to Lakeview. I graduated from Lakeview. I graduated from Craftsbury Middle School and Hazen Union High School. I love this community. When I talk about the community, I'm talking about the greater Hardwick Hub. And Hardwick is as strong as its supporting community, as its neighboring communities. You know, right now we're struggling and it's so great to see the community support to come here and problem solve and think creatively. Like Rose was saying, Craftsbury had that issue, Woodbury had that issue, and we resolved it, and those communities are thriving. So to me, it's about transportation, as Sally mentioned. It's about the low-hanging fruit here. It's an easy problem to fix. Let's get more kids here. And the way to do that is visibility and transportation. I have my kids here because it's a great school. I know the culture of this school, and I love this school culture. We had 3 businesses sponsor artists in residencies for our kids. We do multiple trips to the Athletic Center to go skiing. We do an annual trip to Bar Hill to do a picnic hike. We do walking field trips to the library and to the lake. And we had the whole SSU come to the Highland Center for the Arts. So there's a lot of great resources here in Greensboro that Hardwick has access to. We support each other. Closing the school is really short-sighted. As Rose was saying, you know, the population ebbs and flows. In the pandemic, we had so many people come to our second homes and live here for over a year. We got students because of that. So I think this was a real opportunity to think creatively. I think that the 3 campuses are a real asset because it means space. Space is freedom and flexibility. So I think that we just need to bring some kids here, and I think that there's plenty of kids in Hardwick.
That's your time. Thanks, Sophie.
Thank you. I think, I'm sorry if it's not, but it looks like Naomi Vincent.
So I am a parent child here in first grader. So we moved from a bigger school this year, so I had kind of the same experience. He was in a much bigger classroom last year, about 20 kids, and I felt like he really kind of got lost in the shuffle. He had some struggles that I feel like weren't met just because there were so many kids in the classroom. This year, being in a smaller school, I've seen him kind of come out of his shell. Someone talked about whether our kiddos are getting their needs adequately met, and I just feel like in a smaller school environment, my child's needs have been way more adequately met than they were in a bigger classroom size. I just feel like the teachers care more about him, rather than just being just kind of a number, just because there's so many of them. They have to make sure that different things are being done. But I feel like the teachers here really care about making relationships with children, and then just seeing him not only come so far academically, but also socially. So I would, really hate for that to kind of go away. I'm also a teacher at Walden, so we have another school that has very flexibility. And just as a teacher standpoint as well, I can say that just a small community is really wonderful. There's just something kind of magic about it. I know every single kid's name in the entire school. I've been able to make relationships and kind of get to know the kids a little bit more and connect to them on a deeper and level where I feel like I can support them in kind of different ways. So it really is something beautiful about really trying to fight for that environment.
That's your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
We do have somebody online. I don't know if you want to do all the ones on paper.
Well, I was going to give it back to Erica, maybe.
Oh, well, let's see. Somebody used to say, I feel that those of us who live on the very edge of Craftsbury maybe see it a little bit differently in terms of even going, as Emily said, even going to Hardwick, let alone Woodbury for little kids. And I think that, talk about fairness. It's not fair to put a 4 or 5-year-old kid on a bus and send them, to a 45-minute ride and back again. So, I mean, I think that somehow should come into the equation. And standard, is a whole other distance thing also. So it's a different, and probably on the edge of Woodbury going towards Calais. I don't think those folks would probably want to come up to Greensboro every day if they have tiny little guys. So I don't know, but that should
to me, it can be a very important, part of the decision because, you know, we're in here for the winter and we don't know what climate change will bring in terms of storms and weird stuff. And there's a big safety issue in my mind also. So that's just one of many things. I also feel like Act 46 is almost, it has been an experiment and I'm sure there's many good things. I also feel because Craftsbury is right in my backyard, it's quicker for me to go into Craftsbury than it is to Greensboro. So I feel that missing that Craftsbury population, I would like to somehow involve more of our towns. Maybe not Wolcott. Wolcott is in a different county and it's got grade 8 and, you know, it's a different kettle of fish. But I think if we could somehow join in some way with Craftsbury, for those of us in the town or maybe for the whole town. We've done a lot of other things with Craftsbury and I think education would really be a valuable thing for both towns. So I don't know how to do this.
Thank you. Jay?
Sure. I'm disappointed. I'm really disappointed in the decision the board made to put closing the school as a serious bylaw. I think it's irresponsible for you to do that. Let me tell you why. Right now, if you decide, I guess next week, if you decide to close this school, you've got to put it out to a public vote. There's warning, there's time, it's happened. It's going to be August. Before you can close this school. How many teachers do you think you're going to hire if we don't know if the school's going to open? I can tell you, you can hardly hire a teacher now. If you think the school's going to close, it makes it unviable. And that's why it was irresponsible. By putting this on the menu tonight, you basically put a nail in the coffin of this school. And I think what you need to do is take that off the menu and then look at the real options. The responsible options, the ones that will work and help kids and bring kids into the school and make it viable and look down the road, look long-term instead of saving a couple $100,000 for one. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're gonna go online.
You have a listing.
I got Ann right now.
And
That last name.
Ann McLean.
Ann McLean, online.
Oh, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Sorry, it's Annie. That's why I wasn't responding. So I don't live in Greensboro. I live in Sheffield. I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old that currently attend 4 seasons of early learning in Greensboro Bend. I feel very connected to the Greensboro community. We do have a public school that my kids will attend in Sheffield, but if there were an option to increase enrollment by allowing other districts, I don't know what the feasibility of that looks like, but we would be very interested in attending. And I know there's folks in Glover and other places. Greensboro is in a really interesting place on the corner of 3 districts. So there's a lot of surrounding communities that aren't part of OSSU. Again, I don't know the feasibility of that, but I would be very interested if that was an option to explore.
She shouldn't be allowed to speak.
Thank you. That's what we were just.
Oh, sorry. I don't live in Greensboro. That is correct. I did preface that, so I'll stop now. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Annie. We had spoken about this, and while we are interested in hearing from other community members from other communities, we do want to give Greensboro, Hardwick, Woodbury, and Standard community members the chance first. So if you are online and you have your hand raised and you are not a voting member of our district, can you wait, please? Please lower your hand. So that I don't call on you, because I don't know.
Yeah, lower your hand.
Okay, and we got Kim Beckley next.
Kim Beckley?
Hi. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I do live in Hardwick, so I am a voting member. And I will try and read my handwriting as best I can. I was writing down my thoughts furiously. First of all, in all of these options, no teacher should ever be asked to teach more than 2 grade levels at a time. With the scripted programs that this district is pushing, it is absolutely impossible to teach more than 2 grade levels at a time, and that's not equitable and not fair. Secondly, small classes allow greater social emotional learning for our students. That is getting to that trauma-informed practices thing that somebody else spoke to earlier. And also for teachers, it allows us better differentiation opportunities and allows us to get at the needs of the students. We find ways to help our students better in smaller classrooms. So finding a way to even that out across the entire district, not just at Lakeview, is something that we should be looking at as we move forward. We should move to highlight the positives of each campus for the future. Lakeview is in a center of arts communities. There's Circus right down the road. We've had the VSO come for artists in residence. We've had composing residencies. We have had musical artists come and work with us. If Lakeview became an arts-focused magnet campus, that could be one way that this school could serve the OSUESD community better than it currently is. Woodbury, in that case, could also then be an eco-focused community. They have a great trail system and streams and trails and everything around them. A lot of their teachers are already trained in eco, so it's something that they could easily do and transfer into for those that want outdoor education for their students. Hardwick could be science and engineering focused, math focused. And if we look at the strengths of all of our teachers and all of our districts and campuses, we could really move forward into a way that can let every elementary school serve this district positively, and every parent and teacher could choose the education they want for their children. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it for.
That was it for online, okay? And that was it for our in-person list. So I guess that's
You're going around again in case some people want to.
sure. So if you would,
Do we want to let Annie or somebody else who's not in the district have a first chance?
I think
Well,
any
people who are on the phone, excuse me, Sam,
yes.
there's folks who are on the phone, like where we live, internet is not that great. So some of us have to call on our phones, so you can't see us on the computer. This is Beth LaCour speaking, and I don't know if there's anybody else who's on the phone that you may or may not be able to tell who's on phones listening.
Well, Beth, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I'd like to if this is the time.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so Beth LaCour, I live in Hardwick. I love how everybody is talking about perspective. And I think that the perspective is even much broader. I'm so thankful that Kim said all of the things she said. And I have two questions for the board to please investigate, because we've been discussing them for a long time, but have yet to get numbers for them. The first one is, I'm wondering what the current configuration is for enrollment at Hazen, the Tech Center, and Alternative Pathways. There was a discussion at one time of making an awesome pre-K to 12 district here just using Hardwick, when we weren't sure if the other buildings would be able to be used. And I know that when I get together with colleagues from around the district, those are the days that we really get to come together and use each other's thinking brains to be able to, you know, go deeper into whatever content area that we're doing. So I imagine that if the numbers played out, because I'm looking at numbers, what I know of just informally at Hazen, that we haven't even had anyone apply for the past 4 years for the Patrick LaCour Memorial Foundation Award, because we don't have enough kids attending college that are going to stay in state at our local schools that aren't doing it as an early college option. So I wonder if that has been explored at all, that all of the elementary schools, and then we wouldn't be in the this and them, that we would have the science and math, we would have the literacy, we would have the outdoor center, which it has spectacular pieces for. And it doesn't mean that the high school kids give up their gym or their outdoor facilities, because they're right here. Of which case, the Hazen High School kids that are going to be in, I'll say, academically maybe more college oriented or not career oriented, that are going to GMTCC or investigating alternative pathways, if that would be a benefit for here. I'd like to see numbers if that was at all thought of in any of these plans, and what that would look like for cost saving measures for all of our communities as far as education. And thinking about perspective, there are so many times in this history that families did not get a choice or input.
Time, Beth.
That's
Beth.
Woodbury. Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else on the phone that would like to speak?
We're getting ready for round two.
Okay, yes,
Can I speak for the first time? I'm sorry.
yes, can you tell us your name and where you live, please?
Hanson, from Greensboro. I'm the vice chair of the select board. I just wanted to add a comment about Rose Mosley's point that the select board recently signed an option agreement with Rural Hedge to investigate converting town hall to apartments. The combination of town hall plus a side building may increase apartments in Greensboro by 20 apartments, which is a major increase for Greensboro. As Rose was saying, population ebbs and flows. Also, Ken Hansen is here, Ron Belling, no relative. He had hosted a media event, Habitat for Humanity housing in the church, and I think there were 40 to 50 people there. They're investigating a Habitat for Humanity house in the Urbana. So I think there is movement here on expanding population, especially in school-age children. I just want to add that.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, I'm Bobby Nisbet, and I was on a board way back years ago. But anyway, what I want to say to continue on this vein, the Greensboro Nursing Home is in an area, at a time when we need to start thinking about a transition. The baby boomers are all aging, and what they may need or require or desire for care may change the way it looks today, which could bring in other family, other staff members. And if those staff members don't have a place to live, we don't have people to care for the seniors that are in our community going forward. So that's another piece of the puzzle for Greensboro, to look at the seniors. I'm also thinking that seniors are wonderful children, and Della has done a tremendous job with students at the nursing home. Maybe seniors in the area in the nursing home that need to have some extra support would be able to use this building with children in the building, and the combination of the two would be a fantastic learning experience for both. Just a thought.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm Allison.
I'm sorry, I can't.
Oh, I'm Allison. I'm diagnosed with Greensboro, having 5-year-old son, who's going to be one of 2 partners. And honestly, I'm terrified to put in the situation of just figuring out with another child. It's really hard to find out. We also live about a quarter mile from Casper. I said the idea of sending them to work for Woodbury is really terrifying for our family. So to have Casper in your consideration, but the idea of a larger classroom size for social emotional development, that's what I'm most concerned about. So maybe figuring out Casper as an option for people.
Thank you. Anyone else? You're on here for round 2, Victoria. Yes.
I'm a Casper resident, so I don't know, are we?
I think we've done round 1 of all the Greensboro, Hardwick, Woodbury standard folks. So go ahead.
Catherine Sims, I live in Grassbury, and I'm the state representative for this district. And just want to say thank you to the board for creating this space and such a terrific turnout. I'm feeling real gratitude for the deep care that it seems like this community holds for kids, and how create community together, and commend you for making this space and having a respectful civil conversation about really difficult, complex topics. hope that there can be a lot more of these conversations, the community to continue to come together and say, what do we want for our kids? What do we want for our community? What do we want for the space? And to take the time to, maybe bring an additional facilitation to have that conversation over a period of time. This obviously is a decision you all as voters need to make. Just a few kind of legislative pieces that I wanted to throw in here. Dr. Baker mentioned already this year, depending on how it goes with the veto override session next week, I expect we'll pass a really significant child care bill, which will include really transformational investment in early ed for our kids, including a kind of immediate shift for 4-year-olds to provide universal full day, full week care through supervisory unions and school districts, either provided by the district or in partnership with other private providers like 4 Seasons of early learning or perhaps Great Saplings. And so, it seems like a real opportunity to think about how maybe this space could be a part of that long-term solution, providing more robust pre-K to our community. Also, I don't know if you all have followed along with Orleans Central Supervisory Union, which is having a really big conversation about middle school, and they're, doing some heavy lifting about, how can they look at shifting students and utilizing facilities in a different way to provide additional experiences for middle school students. And so I'm seeing that ahead. And so hopefully there's an opportunity to kind of do some of that investigation together. And we also stood up a task force around school construction aid this legislative session, which hopefully will come back with recommendations. We're looking at what other states like the island are doing to create statewide bonds to provide easier access.
I'm sorry, that's your time, but would the board like to allow additional time to hear about legislative related?
Well, then this is my last piece, so I could just say, hopefully there'll be a statewide bond that can provide, easier access to resources to help transform facilities to meet future needs of communities. So I think there's a lot in the works, and it seems like this, hopefully can be an opportunity.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who has not spoken who would like a first turn? Okay, if you don't want to speak again, just, sorry, go ahead, Harry.
Might be good so we can hear you.
I just wanted to follow up. The first to follow up on Jay's point that all of the community options presented for to teach staff at Lakeview, not to increase the students at Lakeview. I didn't think that was balanced in the presentation. I thought the board should consider an option prior to our next meeting. Also, there's been talk about class sizes comparisons, and I think that the board should present class sizes of other schools compared to what's been presented at Lakeview. Examination of students per class at Lakeview, and there's misinformation from unknown numbers in other schools. That I think if you're clear on that, then it would be easier to have an equity discussion. And then thirdly, there's been talk about after this potential families, and then I think that it should be a public review of the interdistrict choice process. I believe there was a previous deadline, and I think that the public should understand what that deadline was and how families are still getting to deeply after the board's presentation of the information for possibility for next year. And for me, to achieve interdistrict a lot of multiples are.
Can you rehash what you said? We couldn't hear.
So, and forgive me, correct me, Harry, if this is not, so I'm hearing that none of our options included how to increase students in the building, what are class sizes at other schools, and also to review the intra-district school choice, which allows any student in any of our 4 towns to go to any of the 3 campuses by choice. Did I get it all?
Yeah, specifically
The deadline, okay.
And there is a deadline when parents are that have to make that request, or the request has to go to the superintendent. and it certainly was my predecessor's opinion, and I haven't changed it because it's tough to stop midstream, and when you've already approved people to go to different buildings, anyone that's come to me, certainly up until the end of the school year with that request, I've approved it. So, Harry's right, we've made a couple in the last, I think within the last couple of weeks, we've approved a couple of families who've made requests to come, you know, from Lakeview down to Hardwick. So we're just trying to be consistent with the way it's operated in the past. So we're not, you know, yeah. And we've had very few requests. I don't know if we've had any, but we've had very few requests for inter-district choice in the other direction. Hardwick kids requesting to come to Lakeview, or Woodbury kids requesting to come to Lakeview. And again, we talked a lot about programming and what we could do to attract kids. I think, as I said earlier, a lot of what's been talked about tonight, including what our representative said, I think that's long range, somewhat long range planning. I'm not talking 5 years, but I don't think it's anything given that we're in the summer months that we're going to be able to pull off by September. That doesn't mean we have to close the school, however.
We've got an online question too.
Okay, not that we can answer online person, but
Do the options still include specials like art, music, PE, and library? Are those teachers included in the estimates?
Yes. Good question. Yes.
Didn't hear the question. I can read it, and I can read it over the mic as well. Erica Baker asked, do the options still include specials like art, music, PE, and library? Are those teachers included in the estimates?
And the answer is yes.
Go ahead.
My name is Ben Lemery. I'm a resident of Hardwick. Actually, my child doesn't come here. So we are maybe the one parent, family that made that choice. We made purposely that choice because we wanted the small community environment. I really want to echo what Harry said and what Jay had said about slapping that, let's close that decision onto this meeting. I think it was rushed. We are new to the community. We certainly could see the ebb and flow of the numbers and question how long the school would stay open, but we thought it would be more of a forum and a more informative process than just here are your options. I appreciate Harry saying specifically, where are the options to bring in students? And I think that that has been part of the conversations that I have been a part of in the community of how are we being creative in opening up options to attract students here. My child loves this school. She constantly is saying, I don't want to go to another school. I also understand the class size and your difficulties with hiring, but I think you have an opportunity here to be creative and limited opportunity if you just.
Go ahead.
Rose Friedman, I live in East Hardwick. My kids attend Woodbury School. Choice. I'm on the Hazen School Board as well. I would like to echo that my kids go to Woodbury because they're more comfortable in the smaller school environment. My daughter's at Hazen now, and she wishes it was a smaller school. Even though, as a member of the Hazen Board, I can say that I'm concerned about the number of students that I'm leaving Hazen and the shrinkage population that we have there. But she really misses the school environment of Woodbury. So I just want to reiterate that point. I don't think that I can say it enough that a small school really works well for some kids. And bigger is not always better. I think it has a lot to do with kids' interests and what's available to them there. If you're not interested in sports, having the access to a robust sport program doesn't matter to you as much as being in a small classroom environment. So there's a lot of, there's a lot of things to balance, I realize, in these kind of decisions, and it may be equitable and fair. And it's not easy, but I do agree that it shouldn't go too fast. because we are at such a massive time of transition, and it seems like tapping the brakes a little bit, even if it means a couple of years of kind of squeaking by or being in a difficult spot, and being able to, taxpayers and voters asking a lot of questions. It still seems worth just pausing and making sure that we're making the right decision before leaping off of the cliff that we might not be able to get back onto again if we get to reverse course.
And there's someone in the back.
Yeah, I'm just wanting to add that I'm also a Hardwick resident.
And what was your name again? I'm sorry. Yep. I'm gonna look for first time speakers again. Anyone else? Yes, go ahead.
I am Sarah. I live in Clover.
I think we've gotten all the Greensboro residents and Hardwick and Woodbury and Stanners.
Ingram's on that.
Oh, hold, sorry. I'm so sorry. It sounds like we might have a voting resident online.
I'm not sure if Catherine Ingram.
I'm putting you.
She can speak. I am a voting resident, but she can speak first. She was already started. That's fine.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. Go ahead.
I feel as though we can do anything that we want to do if we want to do it now. And the conversations are great, and we need to find a way to move from talking to action. And if anybody wants to join me in taking some action, I would offer my knowledge and services to find a way to get to action. Catherine, you have a lot of resources, you have a lot of connections, you know, a lot of facilitators. If you know somebody who can bring us to action, I'm a fan of results-based accountability. I'm a fan of creating a process that envisions where we want to get to, and then what's backwards from that to say, how are we going to get there? So I appreciate talking to the school board, but this is a community that has the kids that wants to keep the school stay open. And when we go home tonight, if everybody thought about one way that they could give some time to move us from speaking to doing, and then we took that time and we put it into that action, and we might be able to move forward. I'm sure that in some ways we will move forward. There's some great feelings in the room about wanting to keep school and how our kids want to be wonderful. And so it's not that I challenge, but I encourage us not to just have more discussions and talk about things, but let's put up a framework where we can move from talking about it to doing it. I work in the basement of the church over at Farms. Anybody wants to stop in and pick my brain about what I know about moving from talking to action, I'm happy to do that. I'm at your service, and come on out and let's make something happen, because we can really do it if we want to do it. The school board, David, everybody, you guys are very receptive to the ideas.
That's fine. Thank you. Thank you. Catherine.
Hey, guys. First of all, school board, thank you so much for this. I know that this is a difficult issue, and I was there with you guys at one point about this. So I think the one thing I wanted to say is just that I'm a parent. I live in East Hardwick. I'm a parent of a child who is going to be in 4th grade next year and has been attending Lakeview since 2021 or 22 and has really enjoyed the community and the school. But as a parent, like talking about social emotional well-being, like him not knowing if his school's going to be open next year is really tumultuous, and it's hard for me as a parent to be like, well, we just don't know. My inclination is to want to just send him to Woodbury so he knows and can just enjoy the summer and not be worried about, I don't know where I'm going. I don't know where I'm going to be. And I know this takes time and we need to have discussions, but I also think it's really important to think about these kids and to think about what kind of stress this puts on the families of the students who go to Lakeview. And that if we make a decision for next year, and we decide, like, if we decide that it's not going to work to keep the school open for 20 kids, then we can also be like, oh, I mean, we don't have to close the school, sell the school, be done. We can make like careful discussions and careful decisions about this. And it doesn't mean like, if you're down to, if parents are making the choice not to send their kids to Lakeview, parents are making the choice. And I also wanted to make sure that the board is coming back with the results. There was a Wildcat survey, I guess, that went out about busing that I received. And I wanted to, I was going to just say, I'm hoping that the board is going to talk about that survey or give results so the community knows about it, because I would be really interested to know about that. So thank you all very much.
Beckley's got her hand up too.
Is there someone? Yeah, that's good. Go ahead, Kim, and then I'll start going through this list again.
Thank you. When I was making my points earlier, I forgot to mention that a big part of anything that is chosen needs to include equal transportation to all. I think Lakeview has really lost out on the equity of the school choice part because there is no busing to Lakeview from other towns. The kids that come to us from the other towns are only kids with families whose parents can bring them in cars. We would have a lot more students choosing Lakeview, I think, if there was busing for all students. So no matter what the choice is that is made in the future to keep things exactly as they are, or to highlight magnet schools, or to make different academies for different grade levels, whatever the choice is, it needs to have equal transportation for all families because not all families have that access.
Thank you. All right, Della. Okay, Jen. Or Ace.
Yeah, just a few more here that I thought of. I had a question, is Woodbury in the same situation that Lakeview is now, or do you foresee it in the near future? Also, you need to clarify 4B, because I was on this committee that wrote these. We argued long and hard over them, and I know what the intent was. Now, whether we said it right or not, but the intent was if you stop teaching one grade level in any of the 3 buildings, it had to go to a vote because that was a change in the education offered in that community. Lady back here, I forget her name, I'm sorry, mentioned the past discussions in the district. I believe those were the red regional education districts that we could do ourselves. I was on that committee. We talked long and hard, and there should be files this thick on that. And somebody mentioned busing kids from Greensboro down to Target for an hour. There are kids always, even back when I was in school, and I'm talking decades ago, that rode the bus for over an hour in Hardwick to get to Hardwick Elementary, Hardwick Academy at the time, just because of where they live. When my granddaughter was going to school, she was picked up at 7:15, and that's on Montgomery Road in East Hardwick. But to make the loop, it took from 7:15 to 8 to get her to school. So kids are already on the bus, and that's K through 12, all on the same bus. So, and I'd be interested in information on that busing survey that was mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I do appreciate you having this meeting and it being open and friendly.
I have Erica again.
I just asked you a question. Yeah, thanks a lot, you guys. I know it's very hard to do this. Does the town of Greensboro, maybe this person does, does the town have any say in any of this? Do we have a meeting? Can we, is there any input from the citizens who pay taxes about this? Or is it just at a school board meeting? They would have to come to another school board meeting maybe, or? Can I answer that?
Well, I just want to make sure, I just want to make sure we understand the question. Do the residents or the taxpayers of Greensboro have any additional say than public comment at meetings like this?
In any way, about a big change, any sort of changes that might take place in this.
Yeah. Well, and then all right, if you have something to add maybe, but if in fact we get into this long range planning phase, then I think we've got to look at that as all the districts in all 4 towns, and we've got to have that voice in terms of anything official or legislative or electorate. The only is what we mentioned, right? That if there was a move to close the school down, then you would be one of the 4 towns as a taxpayer that would vote on that option. But that would only be if the board would ever propose that, essentially. But hopefully these forums for long range, I mean, I don't know how many of these forums we can have in the short range, because much like a lot of parents said tonight, we got to let these little tigers know whether they're going to be here next year or whether they're going to be somewhere else. I don't want them to be anxious and traumatized throughout the whole summer. We got to get that short-term decision made and made relatively quickly. The long-range decision, there are some incredibly creative ideas that have come up here tonight. And I think that's going to take multiple forums. It's going to take a task group. It's going to take some of the outside facilitation that was mentioned tonight. And I just love the energy in this room. I hope that it can stay strong when we get to that long-range planning phase, because that's going to take all 4 towns coming together with creative juice and deciding, what we want to do for the use of all the facilities that we own as OSU, right? So short range, I don't want to talk for the board, but I think we've got to make some of those decisions really, really quickly. Long range, I think that's when we get into that, much more say, much more participation, much more option by taxpayers, other community members, civic organizations, the kids' voice would be nice to come to the table, right? So, I mean, I think a lot of that would be more long range. Right now, we're at the end of June, and I think we've got to let people that are registered here, have been attending school here, know whether or not that's going to be an option for next year. And I think the board knows that, and that's the short range decision.
Just a clarification, since we formed this union in 2019, a lot of misunderstanding as to what individual town roles are. There is no longer an individual town school. There is no longer an individual town budget. It is one school district, which is represented by the wonderful folks that volunteer up there to represent all taxpayers and all students in Woodbury, Greensboro, Standard, and Greensboro. The only difference from the arrangement in Hazen, which has 3 towns, is that we have 3 campuses. So even though you're a Woodbury, which has Woodbury Elementary, Hardwick, Greensboro Standard, you still are responsible to the entire district. So one person in Greensboro or the voters in Greensboro have no more say than a single voter in any of the other towns. And it just is what the entire community, just like these folks were elected by the entire community and they represent all the 4 towns, the school belongs to all 4 towns. So it's not Greensboro's school, it's OSU's school, belongs to the school district.
Is per pupil cost the same for every student?
What they do is they take the budget divided by the number of pupils and then per pupil cost for the whole district.
We gotta make sure.
So here, if you take those numbers that Dave gave us earlier and divide it by 27 kids, you're talking $46,000 per pupil. Whereas when they did the budget in March or February, it was only $22,000 per student for the entire district.
Thank you, Orice.
Yeah.
Erica, if you have any specific questions, Orice knows very well.
I've been around.
And you can email.
I trust.
Yeah.
I trust she knows her stuff.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm Carolyn Keeler. I have 5 grandchildren who've gone through the school here. It's been fantastic for some of them, and not so good for others. But I was on the school board here and on the OSS with our friend in the front seat. And we never agreed on anything. But we agreed to disagree. We agreed to disagree. Because basically, what we're talking about is a political problem. You're talking about how many kids, you're talking about how much money, but it really comes down to who has the vote. And when this was resolved, it was resolved that Hardwick has the most votes. And that put the small school in a very different situation. Because at that particular time, Hardwick was very combative. Hardwick never listened to what the small schools wanted.
Respect,
And it
please.
comes down, so the basis of this, as you're talking about everybody being here and all the goodwill, all this goodwill comes out of a very contentious and very hard and heartbreaking beginning. So I've challenged the people on this board to do what is best for the kids, because it started out, they weren't doing what was best for the kids, they were doing what was best for Hardwick. And if there's anybody from another town, he can vote with Greensboro, I implore you to do it. Because I agree that the timing of this meeting is absolutely to undercut Lakeview. Lakeview's been undercut. We've heard it here tonight. People don't know whether the kids should come here because there aren't going to be the kids. There isn't going to be a school. You've cut us off at the knees. So looking, how do we go forward?
I'm sorry, that's your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You got another person online.
Oh, yes, I can't see the name, but
Nancy Reed.
Nancy?
Hi, I just want to say again what Annie said, even though she's not in the town. And other people have said that people want to come to Lakeview because it's small, and people from out of town want to come to Lakeview. And having a busing from Hardwick, it just would make so much sense to open it up to keep the school viable so that other kids from other towns can come to that small, wonderful little school. Just really remember that.
Okay, thank you. I think I ended at Erica. So Emily? Okay. Rose?
Sure. I just wanted to piggyback on what Naomi was saying, really right, about teaching in a small school. And I teach at Danville School and I'm really small class sizes. And it is really incredible, especially in today's times with the high number of anxiety and depression and social emotional needs of students, to be able to have small classes, to get to know your students, to work with them individually. I see it every day at Danville. I have classes of 8 to 13. 13 is my biggest class, 8. And now I have a class of 4 to 14. Yeah, it's really small classes. I really get to know my students. I've seen the same for Fox here at Lakeview. And that's just been incredible, I think, and it should not be overlooked how important it is to have those small class sizes. And the flip side of that is if you were to close a school and send all these kids to Hardwick, then you're asking those teachers to suddenly take on 30 kids in a classroom, like Florida class sizes, right? We're not Florida. So just keep that in mind. I think it's really important. Thanks so much.
Jay isn't here, right?
He left.
Go ahead.
My name's Lee Young. I've been on the school, I was on the school board for 2 minutes.
Can't hear you, Wayne.
We can repeat it too. We'll repeat.
Sorry.
He's gonna speak up. Here we go.
I was on the school board for a long time, and when I first came, it was like, we had 117 kids this week. We were sweating bullets where they were gonna go, what we were gonna do. And we, at that time, were talking about building a new building at that time. The next year, we lost 30 kids. So it's been this, the ups and downs have been here for a long time. And I guess Catherine gave me
biggest pause, if the legislature is indeed going to pass this law about mandating four-year-olds coming to a school setting, then I would not close it down any school, any place. Where are those kids gonna go? And you need to keep, in my opinion, you need to keep this building. We fought hard to do the repairs, do all the stuff that needed to be done, meet the state regs, do, the handicapped accessible, all everything. We built a special room so kids don't hurt themselves. I mean, it was just endless rules, endless rules, and they all cost money. And so my thought is, I would tell the current parents, kids here.
No, finish this sentence. I think you should finish this sentence. Just finish that sentence. That was gonna be a good sentence. I think. Go ahead.
I would just hold off on closing anything and just, and I know it's all tenuous and it's all iffy and whatever, but the state indeed does do this. Then you're gonna have this big influx of 4-year-olds coming to places to be educated and taken care of. And it's right here. You don't have to build another building. It's here. It's in the Woodbury too.
Thank you. I will get to you, Judy. I'm just trying to stay on the list so I don't forget anybody. Victoria.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that I am not in support of closing the school this year. That is not what I would advocate for fall. Besides that, I think in those bylaws, we're supposed to have 2 additional meetings in Greensboro before any of that happens. And that's not a realistic timeline for families. It's just not realistic. But I would ask that the board, within the next year, come up with some kind of viable rethink of the way the district is working, because just continuing to operate K-6 in this building is clearly not long-term viable right now. I love the intention of bringing more families to Greensboro, and maybe more kids will come, but when I was on the Lakeview board, we were having these same conversations with 50 kids in the building. And we didn't go for the bond because our numbers dropped. So it's not that I don't believe that it can happen, but we also have to look at the bigger reality of our overall region. And it's not that population is growing, the population is shrinking. So I just would like the board to come up in a year, some kind of viable, safe, healthy, equitable, fair, for lack of a better word, transition for how the district is going to reshape itself as an elementary district or as a larger pre-K to 12, but just continuing with 3 pods of pre-K to 6, I don't think is long-term viable. That's what I want to clarify about what I said earlier about rethinking this. It's been a great school and it's done miraculous things, but our whole community and world is changing, and I think it's responsible to kind of maybe rethink the way it's delivered for these elementary students. It's just us.
Thank you. Judy, you're next.
I just, looking at this immediate coming year while all these things are cooking, I wonder if the district arranged busing from Hardwick to Lakeview and reopened the possibility, would there be some more kids that would come from Hardwick with the transportation? I know there's still a big problem, but is that a possible short-term shift?
Sophia?
Yeah, I just want to echo, if we need transportation from Hardwick as a hub into the smaller communities. I'd love to know what drives decisions for parents to send their kids out of the school, the community where their school is. Like, why did the Hardwick families come to Greensboro, Lakeview? Why are some of the Lakeview families going to Hardwick? To Carolyn's point, First of all, we had a fantastic year at Lakeview. We had amazing teachers. We did incredible things. And then to end the school year like this is really awful and got a lot of the Lakeview families scared. And that's why I think they're jumping ship. But I think people, that's why visibility is accountability. We need to get the word out that this is a great school to come to. Let's make it easy for people. Let's talk about the resources in this community, how the school engages with the Greensboro Nursing Home, how we engage with Caspian Lake, how we have a fantastic library. After school care wasn't a problem. Kids can walk to the library here and it's open Tuesday and Thursday till 5 p.m. Let's talk about all the wonderful resources we have here to share with our neighboring families and communities. So more about getting the word out about bringing parents in, because we have the kids. The kids are at Hardwick. We have the kids. They just need to come here.
That was someone's time. Carrie.
I agree with Sophie, and I agree with Carrie. I'm Carrie Cassidy, East Hardwick resident, longtime teacher at Lakeview. One of the things that's happened over the last few years is all we're hearing is, oh, they're closing the school. They're closing the school. Oh, there's a school up there because I also work in a public building. And when that's out there, people worry, and they've been worrying since we merged. And so when we talk about equity, when people keep hearing that, they want security for their families. So what are they going to choose? I think we really need to look at numbers and wondering why people are leaving. And they think this is a sinking ship. I'm just going to say it, when it really doesn't have to be. And like, people are looking for safety for their children. We're already having worries. No is a valid answer if someone wants to go to another school. And we're piling up Hardwick. Are they prepared to take all these kids? Are the classroom teachers really ready? Or is this being piled upon them? Former classroom teacher. We teach who we get. But we also, are we part of the problem by just saying yes to everybody who's scared and wants a future for their children? So I don't know if I'm making any sense, but we just something to consider. We have a lot to offer here, but when you're worried about your children, you want their security. And when you keep all over town for the last 3 years, and you know the school is closing or there is a school, it doesn't really help our community environment. So we really need to give the community and everybody out there something solid to stand on, because for the last 3 years, I think it's been a little shaky.
Thank you. In the back?
Yeah, I'm running a deal. I went here to bring the line. Carrie actually not had a time. And I just wanted to find out if there was a simple way to like take a toll of the Hardwick kids and find out if there are any who are kind of struggling with larger class size and be like, hey, there's an opportunity to try something different.
So I'm looking at our time, and I know all of you, and we have things we have to do in the morning. Is there anyone here who has not spoken at all, who would like something to say?
I think somebody online.
Is there someone online that would like to speak who hasn't?
I think that just didn't.
Yeah, that's possible.
Okay.
Been known to happen.
So Jen's had her hand up the whole time.
I know there's also a whole long list of people who I haven't gotten to for their second turn. So I'm trying to be equitable. We are going to have another more of this, obviously. Please email us, come to our meetings. This is not our only board meeting we've ever had. We've had lots of them every month. They rotate around all the different buildings, so please. Well, we haven't decided. That's our next piece of action that I forgot when we switched everything, so stay tuned. At the very least, it would be in August.
You're gonna put this off to.
No, that is not what I said.
Okay,
That is our
that's what I'm
next
asking.
schedule.
When is your next meeting, not your scheduled meeting?
That's our next.
Meeting.
We'll let you know. Yep.
Okay.
You can stick around and find out. We're about to decide.
We are about to decide.
Walk out.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you for remaining respectful. This is a hard
Thanks
discussion.
for letting all these green people speak.
I'm gonna stop you. No, public comment is closed. Board members, we need to have another meeting. Board members, aye. Point of order, aye. Board members, we need to close the public comment. We need to schedule our next meeting. So January, no, not January, June
22nd. So this is.
Carrie can't do the 19th.
Next
Okay.
month.
22nd, next Thursday,
Time, Sam, 6.
same time, and it would be here. 6 o'clock on the 22nd.
Thursday?
Yes. Can you?
I'll do my best.
So Thursday? Yeah,
Yes.
Thursday I can do, I can do Wednesdays now.
Okay.
It's veto session, so I'll do my best.
I think we should
Oh.
stay here too.
Can you just?
Yeah, you might want to be careful with that.
Yes, I will
Because
try.
there's some frustration.
Our next meeting is next Thursday at 6 o'clock here.
22nd?
22nd.
22nd.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Dr. Baker.
Sorry.
So let's wait till they adjourn, then we can. Andy, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I heard Sam yell about the next meeting. Just wanted to double check. Is the plan for it to be?
Okay.
Yeah, they're trying to get a meeting for next week, so everybody seems like
Or all those.
do the 22nd.
Raise your hand. I can't hear you.
That work for you, Mandy?
Any opposed, abstention?
I don't know what they're voting on right now.
Not really voting, they're just trying to get consensus of when they'll be available. And it looks like the 22nd is the next available date.
I don't know whether.
Can you do the 22nd, Mandy?
I think so. I'm just curious, like, is it gonna be sort of the same length?
Probably gonna be here again,
I know, I tried.
and it'll be to, if there's any additional public comment, we can take it, but I think it's getting down to decision time.
Yeah.
Have we adjourned?
Yeah. Sorry.
We have now adjourned. We're gonna stop recording. Next meeting, for those of you who are online, and we'll set up here at the Greensboro Gym again, at Lakeview Gym, Thursday, March 22nd, 6 p.m. Not March, sorry, June 22nd, Thursday, June 22nd. 6 p.m. Thanks, everybody, for coming.
Sure, I think you got everybody.